respect to my colleagues. Bob Schoultz.
I've recently been inspired by the immigrant experience. It's become something of a cliche that we're a nation of immigrants. But in my recent experience, I've run into a lot of them, and I thought that many of these people, a large percentage of them, had to leave everything they knew, had to take enormous risks, had to show great courage to leave their homeland and come to America. My forefathers did, as did, I'm sure, many of you, of your forefathers. And I think about the courage that that takes to go off into a land where you don't know the rules and may not know the language, and how much our country was formed by people who did that, who showed that great courage. And when they got here, they only expected the opportunity to work and to strive and survive and do better than where they were before. And when I think about the two of those together, one, the courage to leave everything they knew and their friends and family and to show up someplace and only have nothing given to them and have to work and survive by the sweat of their brow, and just to have an opportunity, I'm inspired. And recently I heard the story of Meb Keflezighi, who won the Boston Marathon recently, first American in 3 decades. A couple of years earlier, he'd been the first American in several decades to win the New York Marathon. He grew up in a refugee camp in Eritrea, and 9 brothers and sisters, and the story of his father and how his father was able to get to America and bring his family over here. And Meb shows up in San Diego, which is where I'm from, and he's a local hero as well as an American hero. Age 12, doesn't speak the language, and goes on to these great things. And a friend of mine knows him well and went to an Eritrean meeting or celebration of Meb's accomplishment. And he said he was one of the only white faces in the room. And in a room full of refugees, full of black faces who had come to America. And they started the meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America. And he was moved and realized how much that meant to them and how he took it for granted. And I listened to all the voices speaking accents I didn't recognize, serving me fast food in the airports coming over here and driving the cabs that took me from the airport to the hotel, and realized that this immigrant experience is still alive and still happening. I shift focus quickly to another organization, and I'll come back to that in a moment, but I teach with the National Outdoor Leadership School, and they teach leadership and character by taking people into the mountains, into the wilderness, in small groups. And people have to deal with the adversity of what the environment offers them, being outside their comfort zone, and deal with the challenges internal, the dynamics of that small group. And the jewel in the crown of their leadership philosophy is this thing called expeditionary behavior. And expeditionary behavior basically means that to make the expedition work, everyone has to do their share and then some. And their share begins with taking care of yourself, taking care of your own needs so that you can contribute to the rest of the expedition and not become a burden on the expedition. A second jewel in that crown is the idea of tolerance for uncertainty and adversity. And when you leave the comforts of civilization, you go into the mountains and the wilderness, you are forced to deal with uncertainty of the weather and the terrain and the adversity of being away from the comforts we've come to know. Coming back to the immigrants, they had to have this tolerance for uncertainty and adversity to leave their home and to leave their friends and family and come to this country. But they all counted on communities to take care of them, to help them out, to give them a shove, to get them started. And Meb Keflezighi was counted on the Eritrean community. And I know people in Southern California, the Vietnamese American community there is so tight. When people come over, they bring them in, they help them get them on their feet, And then it's up to them to make their own way. And the Iraqis that are there, and so many of us know people who have come over recently, and these communities which take care of themselves and struggle and find their way in our country, I think are an inspiration to me and are also should be a source of inspiration for all of us as we think about the American idea and how they embrace it in a way that it's easy for us to forget about sometimes. And for them, the American dream is not an entitlement. And many who have lived here for many generations begin to see it as an entitlement. For them, it's an opportunity. And they fulfill the American dream by being able to strive for that opportunity. And I encourage us to continue to look at immigrants and the immigrant communities for inspiration as we consider America.
Well, thank you, Bob.